So Eche Sikanko, a friend of mine, just put this out on his, I think he sent it to me earlier today. Says the Alan Kyerematen conundrum. Great gentleman, unfulfilled NPP candidate. I just 4 big paragraphs. So let me just read it. It says the real problem, respectfully, with Uncle Alan K has been that he has never been able to stamp his imprint in the hearts and minds of the NPP and Ghanaians. After President Kufuor gave him that huge upstart in 2007, he never really built on it. That's not to say that he hasn't contributed to the foundations of the party and its activities. However, to get a grip on the party, you need to do more than just touch and go. Alan never really had a base. One of the great things about running for local office is that it helps you to build a base, garner experience, and set up a solid framework for a national effort. Sometimes you need to run for something, be part of the national discourse in a major way, or at least have a national following. Some have said that being MP or running for MP or being on the national ticket as a candidate or vice candidate gives you a certain kind of priceless political experience you can't buy. That is not to say being an MP is or should be a sine qua non for the presidency. Trump, for instance, never ran for any form of political office, but he did have certain solid, unassailable, unrepentant, unyielding, and exceptionally invigorated national base or national audience through his stamp on American television history. In national politics, you simply need to generate and cultivate that. The Drew Misu mantra was outmoded at birth. The presidency is not a coronation. One of the biggest mistakes Alan made was to assume that party people would naturally fall in line. Democratic politics is no monarchy, and as we found out, there will be no automatic ascension. In politics, you need to go out there and win hearts and minds. You need to make your case vigorously and energetically. And we sure do think he was doing that at some point. He probably should have stuck through to the end, but of course, he's entitled to his position. The elitist meme. There's something about Alan that screams elitist. Of course, he's likable, charismatic, respectable, and to be fair, nice, handsome gentleman. However, it goes beyond that. There always seemed to be this intangible gulf between him and the general populace. At some point, he needed to get into the trenches, put his shoulders down, and get a bit ordinary as the non-ministerial, non-ambassadorial, non-presidential Alan. A good strategist would know how to do this, and we saw very little of that. That's coming from former colleague Eche Sikanko, posted this morning. I know you have lots of takes on that, but I just wanted to throw that out. Not to say I agree with everything Eche has said, but I think it's just a nice framework for the discussion. And so we'll branch into tech and social media trends, but keep the comments coming in for Alan. I just got one from Kofi from Usu. He says, Bernard, the moment Alan accepted Nanado's ministerial appointment as trade minister, I knew his presidential ambition has been surreptitiously decapitated. It is finished. Well, that's Kofi's view. So Alan bows out. What does this mean for the race? Let me start with Godfred. Any quick, I don't know how you heard it. Were you surprised? Yesterday, for us, we were waiting for the press briefing, and it kept sort of getting tossed and turned. Eventually, the statement came in around 6 p.m.
I think that should have been an indicator. And I think the last time we had this conversation was post the Superdelegates conference, and this was one of the options that had been discussed, considering the fact that he had come third, and the circumstances around it. Going forward, he said he was going to go over the results with his campaign team and then make a decision. And this is a very big decision for him, considering his history. Somebody who's tried to be president, a Flagbearer of this political party since 2000 and what?
2007. 2007.
Yes, he's been contested in 2007. To finally say, well, I will not contest because the parties...
the processes are not fair.
Are not fair, in my estimation, and cites that incident as his basis for pulling out. People will look at it in different ways. Okay, some will see it as well. He just found an excuse to walk away, considering the fact that the outcome, the Superdelegates conference, were not what he would have expected. Particularly coming second to a first-time aspirant like Kennedy Japan, somebody who would not have been considered a political heavyweight compared to him. And I'm sure it would have had him thinking, am I really as popular as I am? Where's my base? And in addition to those things, if you put all those things together, perhaps it supports the decision that he has made, that he wants to withdraw from this race. As to whether it is the end of his political career, we don't know. Because I think we've been told to expect developments later. You know, but
There's an interesting point.
It's a sad end to his relationship with the NPP for me, because this will.
You think this is the end of the road for him in the NPP?
Yes, because this will be the second time in their estimation that he has walked away.
He has walked away.
He hasn't resigned from the party.
The first
yeah,
one.
the first. He hasn't resigned from the party. No, he hasn't resigned from the party. But what he has done, in their estimation, would be to tarnish the image of the party because he did not get his way.
There's an interesting article the Herald wrote the week we discussed this topic, that Alan Kyerematen was being humiliated into political retirement.
Yes.
And at the time, when you were doing the headlines, you said that was an interesting headline.
Yes.
But
From Larry.
it seems to have come true.
Yes.
It seems to have come true that he was analyzing that for somebody of his stature to come third, a distant third,
Yes.
in a race like this, it means that his being in the race was no longer tenable.
Yes. You see, and
which goes contrary to the argument a lot of people were making that the first round is just a selection, that these are just like the high people in the party, and that the second round is the real race. But the nature of the defeat sent a bigger signal. So it's not just the question of a selection.
Yes. I spent a large part of yesterday evening thinking about all of this, and my mind kept coming back to the Superdelegates Conference and the results. Alan's persona, his clout, his personality, how he would view himself vis-a-vis the race, vis-a-vis the NPP, vis-a-vis the Flagbearer spot. And I think that those numbers would be very, very discouraging for anybody who would see himself as somebody who should be Flagbearer. Let's not forget, 2007, he wanted to be, and he left, and he's giving it another try. So I think that they would have done all the analysis, looked at the numbers and say, okay, this was not a performance we expected. But did I expect him to walk? No. I thought that the numbers from the Superdelegates Conference would be a wake-up call. So they'll maybe change tack and see what they could do to possibly salvage the situation, ahead of November 4. So for me, it was a bit of a surprise hearing that he was walking away. But when I look at the situation in its entirety, it's not too much of a surprise in retrospect, because just like I've said, when you look at everything, the numbers weren't encouraging at all. You would have figured that he would have been closer, at least he would be
Nathan
second.
And Godfrey and everybody, that suggests that his team analyzed the first round to be a barometer of the second round.
yes.
So even though they were denying in the discourse that, well, the first round is just a selection process, sort of, when they looked at the numbers in the first round, they sort of, you won't leave a race that you know you will win.
Yeah, but as we discussed
You get me?
the first time, I indicated to you, bar that historic close race he had with Nanado the first time,
All the races have been.
all the other races have never been close.
Yes.
At that level.
Yes.
In fact, his numbers had been declining.
Yes.
At that level. So there had never been a basis for him to say, we were entering my playground, although his persona had been nurtured to portray that of a people's person. And in all this, I come back to the point I made again the morning after the Monday after the Superdelegates Conference. I think he never took off. His campaign never took off. And I'm sure when he sits down later on to reflect, he will acknowledge that a lot of things did not go right in his estimation. One, accepting the appointment after continuing. Continuing as a minister post. Yes, the first term. Because campaigning takes a long time. Now, did he ask himself, where is my base? Who are my people? Who are the ones I can rely on? And he had never really developed or cultivated that base within the party. There are those who have questioned his constituency, even within their Ashanti region, that if he were to point to a locale in the Ashanti region where he is strong, which locale would it be? Even in the Ashanti region, would he mention Nshaeso? Would he mention Asokwa? Where exactly would you point to? If you were to go to the central region, where would you point to in that regard? Then also his people skills had been questioned. Okay, his he had
on the connection, keeping people. Somebody said they changed their campaign team for every single time, every single election.
Keeping people around him, maintaining that connection with the grassroots. So for a lot, I think the biggest mistake he made was, and it was an advantage and a disadvantage for him in cultivating the myth or the persona of Alan. He kept himself away from people. Okay, so he only shows up and you see this. Oh, so this is Alan Cash, handsome, tall man.
You don't get
with a nice smile, but you can never break through to the person.
It's not.
Okay. Yeah. So unlike the others he was contesting, who were constantly in people's faces because they were everyday politicians.
So
they were MPs.
MP, vice president is a vice president.
Yeah, vice president. He goes everywhere. Kennedy goes everywhere as an MP and two
media personality.
Not just that, as a party activist. If you follow Kennedy is involved in every MP's race somewhere. You see him in Okaikwe, you see him in the Volta region, you see him in Tamale. By virtue of doing that, he has generated some following across and some familiarity. Alan did not do that. He only showed up when the race was there in that period. And there had been an evolution of the party from 2000. If you look at the voters in 2007 and the voters we have now in the NPP, those in 2000, say between 2007 and 2010, if we are to take a look at the delegates who are going to vote this year, there would have been a significant change in who these people are. Now, most of those people, would they look, because the party has gotten very young, would most of those people look at Alan in the same way as they look at his contenders, Baumia?
So how the people saw Alan in 2007 is not how the people see him
today. It's not how this
today.
generation might see him, particularly because he has not cultivated it as heavily as he should have. So all in all, like I said, it's sad it's ended this way for him.
But you seem to be suggesting that it's finished. It's over.
Is
his political career over?
Only he can make that determination. He could say there are those who have suggested he can consider running as an independent, but then these same flaws were hunted.
Sometimes is Alan the MPP Spielgabra? I'm boxing you quick on that.
Wow.
When you look at the similarities, trade ministry.
I didn't see this question coming.
Trade ministry, Achimota School, Tall, US ambassador, all of them have that. They both went to Motown. They both were trade minister. They both were US ambassador, Ghana ambassador to US. They both were a close number 2 in the beginning, where Spio was going after Mills and Alan was going after Nanado, and they both declined spectacularly.
I mean, you can draw some similarities between the two, but the circumstances would vary. You get me? I think, is it Eche or...
Eche's article.
Eche's article. And, the moment Alan Kyerematen took the appointment as the trade minister under Nanado...
The second one or the first one?
The very first time, 2017, that he agreed to be trade minister, for me, is where he left the race.
Strategically, it was wrong.
Strategically, it was. He didn't have any advantage, because you see, Nana Akufo-Addo would not, against all odds, propose a certain Dr. Baumia to be running mate against the stance of the party. Work with him for 7 years, and not stand with him at a point like this.
So once you have accepted trade in the pecking order, you
have submitted yourself under the man. That's one.
So the first mistake.
And again, while he was minister, he did not create any space for himself to assert his leadership.
Take ownership of something.
That will help garner his base. As Godfrey was saying, top of my head, I don't know where Alan's political base is. If there is, they can point that to us. It will be very difficult to say. And that's where I come to Spielgabra. Same thing. Ambassador Spiel, happy birthday. He's turning 70th this weekend. 70.
I think Alan is 69 also. Which is a different point. Most of the men in the race are in their late 60s.
Yes, that's correct.
Most of them.
And again, You know, one of the things that the NPP has done, which I believe is only a matter of time, a lot of the major political parties would follow, is the issue, the whole idea of the super delegates. Now, it gives, among other things, the contestants an opportunity to reassess themselves.
So when the first round comes, it helps
You
to
have
think.
the opportunity to find a reason to back down, because it requires a lot of money.
Resources. Yeah.
A lot of money
Yeah.
to go through the whole thing. Now, assuming they did not have the super delegates and Alan repeated the 5% he got the other time,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to have heard that, to have heard a resignation from the party instead of I won't do again.
Okay.
You understand? Because there's an associated deja vu with the feeling that he got that time.
Yeah.
Because look, prior to this contest, the people who were spearheading Alan's whole campaign did not submit themselves to the idea of we can even lose.
Oh, are you sure?
On your last program.
He said that they don't care about the first round. The second round is what they
But
will
did
win.
he say that they'll lose?
What did no, he said there was no lose. He said they will be in the
Yes.
top 5.
So that's what I'm saying. That the point is that they didn't see this coming. It is very, very discouraging
to get that
to
percentage.
get a distant third from Baumia. Baumia's figures were what?
Bamia got 60,
Almost 700.
68.15.
Almost 700 people.
Kennedy got 14.
You
Ilan
understand?
got
You are getting almost 100.
95.
Yeah,
Got
that is
95.
that is very wide.
Yeah.
That is very, very wide. And it's almost embarrassing for somebody with the stature of Alan Kyerematen, as we have known him.
Yeah, but sometimes my point is that their argument was that this group is just the top.
It's not true.
No. I'm using that to say, you are saying that they said they didn't think they would lose. The argument they made to me was that they are not interested in 1, 2, 3, or 4, because once they are in the 5, the real race is November. So
Okay.
to now say I've placed third and I'm discouraged, therefore I won't go to November, it's a defeat of the original argument. Because the original argument is that once you're in the top 5, we are being selected to now do the real race. That's what he said.
Granted. But I am also saying that if Alan had turned first within this same context, there's no way under this planet he would have withdrawn from the race.
Samuel, so
Okay, what if he had
With
10
the-
seconds?
with the same prevailing-
I'm coming.
with the
Let's-
same
okay,
prevailing
what
circumstance.
if he had 10 seconds?
Akin to first round of their 2007. What I'm saying is that if it's close enough,
If it's close,
then
there's a
there's a
fighting
chance.
chance.
But a distant second, third means that you would be required to spend more money. You see, it all comes down to a lot of things, including money.
Resources.
Yes. Now, between now and November 4th, where is he going to get the money from? Mind you, there were stalwarts in the party in 2007 who will swear by Alan's name. Where are they now? Dr. Anane, the party chairman in team, and all the people who were with Alan. They abandoned ship. You understand? So the strength of the Alan we knew in
no longer the
2007
same.
is no longer the same.
okay, Samuel, I have a question.
Seeing this picture, who in his right mind will venture this attempt of spending money? Look, it's a lot of money that the people are spending.
200,000 delegates.
Yes, 200,000.
Even to
delegates.
travel to see them.
Travel,
It's
you
a
know,
lot.
It's a
and
lot.
all the things they do. I mean, Kennedy may have some resources to engage the system, but if you take the Baumia camp, for instance, where you have more of the well-to-do, financially strong people supporting.
A lot of MPs coming out
Yes,
to say they're on his
they are
side.
going. Look, even the announcements that they put on the platforms, some of the key platforms, NPP platforms, where you have chief executives, you have so and so and so and so. Right from the get-go, they knew that Alan was going to lose. They knew it. You understand? And so if Alan sees, and don't get me wrong, what I'm saying is that they may give the reason as they have given, but they also know the truth.
They calculate.
Check Kwabena Japan's response when he lost.
Yeah.
Check his statement. He said that he has lost. He may not agree with everything, but this is the majority decision of the electorate as structured by the party.
So he's moved on.
So he says that I am ready to support whoever wins. And that is being part of a political party. But if you lose and every day you have to come up with a reason, because think about the party. And then someone I heard him yesterday talking about how can you win and be quiet. You see, it's unfortunate for Yaboabian Samoa to make a statement like that because he is thinking that this is the end game. This is only the beginning. There are people who are in this business
maybe it's the end for Alan. Maybe.
Oh no! What I'm saying is that was he expecting Bamian to put powder on his face and come and shout?
That's not even my point. The question that hasn't been answered from the yesterday issue is what next? Because yesterday
for
Alan.
No, he said it that he will come back and let us know, what he's planning to do in politics. But for now, he's going to deal with his family and friends and this line is repeated in the 2007 state resignation statement. This same line of I'm going to consult my family and so. Go and check.
But it's very normal when a person loses election. For example, if you read the Mahama after 2016 statement that was signed by family, it's had this. Of course, it was not the same kind of statement, but usually when there's a race and somebody who expects to do or doesn't do well, the recourse would be that I'm going to take a backstage. I'm going to speak to people who are close to me and stage a comeback or whatever. So the point is, it's up in the air. We don't know what Alan is going to do, right? There are so many other issues. So what does this leave the race, right? So does the 10% Alan go to Kennedy? Does it go to Bawumia? Do we know? Does that create any new dynamic in the race? It's too early.
The 10% Alan, what I can tell you is that the top brass of the 10% Alan is not likely to go Bawumia.
You don't think they will?
The top brass of the 10% Alan.
They will not go to
And I'm
Bawumia.
talking about the Hinning Toes, the Sly Tetes, and all these people who were out there. But at the base, that one
It's possible.
It's possible
It's up for grabs.
It's up for grabs.
We will have a few weeks to find out.
I just wanted to ask a question. Okay. The reason stated by the Alan camp was the fact that, there was violence, all of those things. I just want to find out. Sometimes we are making a point. I just want to find out. Assuming Alan got closer numbers to Dr. Bawumia, but that prevailing situation of a party agent of his being attacked and that situation remained constant, what would be his stance?
I think the answer he gave is that, and I think I agree with him on that point, that the calculation is about my likelihood to win. Now, if you have a fighting chance and you have a chance, notwithstanding whatever happened, you will stay in the race. So I think what he's trying to say is that whatever happened may have happened, but the calculation is about between now and November, there's demoralization in the team, resources will be affected. Do we really want to go for this when we know? Just if you got like 40%, and you see when you get all these percentages, it comes with different things: support, you galvanize.
Energy.
So I mean, there are races where there are things that happen, people still stay in the race. So I think when they do an overall calculation, in the best interest of the team, they decide that let's not use resources that we don't have to fight a battle that we don't know we can win.
But that's the message they haven't told us.
No, but that's why we are here to analyze and bring. So I mean, of course, you write a statement and say, if you are writing a statement that you are leaving, how will you write it? So I think that for us in the thing as well, what happens then is how the dynamic changes, and I think the next few weeks will help us to see, in terms of whether we are going to see any movement, any announcements from different camps, and whether that's going to, all of those things. So there's still a lot in the game to be.
But the big lesson for Alan, and I said this there at that time, how he constituted his team, and was a problem.
But Godfrey, don't forget that somebody said to me in an interview that every year the team changes. So the question,
even if it changes, you see, here's the thing: even if it changes, the components of the new team would reflect how far you can go.
Don't forget that don't forget that there are also in Ghanaian politics a lot of people who's actively working in your team but don't come out.
Yes.
So the face of the team is what you are saying. Yes. There are people who work for all the candidates who are strategizing for them, but nobody knows.
But
so we don't know who those people are.
The face actually defines the body language of the campaign. And granted, these are people with experience, a lot of experience on their side. But there's also another angle that about 80% to 90% of these people are people who are at
odds with the current president or the government in a way. Or
from the Hinning to Slatetes and all those people who are beefing with the president's people. So
all of them?
I say about 80 to 90%.
Some of them are
about 80 to 90%.
Some of them are okay.
About 80 to 90% are people who have had
of the face of the campaign.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That I mean, you have people who used to occupy high positions and were withdrawn. If you look at the pictures of the Alan thing, you know, I don't want to name this, but most of them are people who have problems with the system.
So, that also sends a different signal to delegates about,
of course,
about what the, and it also sort of shows the mood of the party, right? If the party feels like, yes, we may not be happy with everything, but we don't necessarily want to append what the president and his team has done, then if you use people who are seen to be against that, then you are sort of giving the delegates a difficult situation. Yeah, so the branding challenge for Alan's team was to say, NPP going on, but I'm a different kind of new.
But
do you get it?
You see, for instance,
very difficult
on the face
message.
of it.
Yes.
On the face of it.
Yeah.
How are you perceived as a hardcore Kumasi supposed to be your
well, those
base?
things are some of those things are media created though, in the sense of the way we discuss it. Because for example, for analysis sake, I will take the candidates and I'll say this guy has an affiliation to Kumasi, or this guy. We do that
but the candidate himself had never run away from the fact that he is.
No, but he's never actually come to say that.
No, Bernard.
He said if he goes to voter, he will give Muhammad around for his money. That's what he said.
Yes.
He didn't.
Okay, let me.
What I'm saying is that he was Godfrey. What I'm saying is that the framing for Alan was Fanti Ashanti.
Yes.
But I'm saying that when you listen to the man himself, he doesn't.
But the point I was making is, most of the major players in those two regions who are recognizable to this generation of voters
have taken a stance.
None of them were.
Yeah, but that's the point. We didn't
part of the faces.
But we didn't know. You see, we didn't know Baumia's support until the election itself, because people were declaring and saying things.
Yes.
So it's the first one that let us know that actually the 97.
No, it's not. You don't get it. Prior to what happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We knew
some of the people were.
Some of the people. They had shown their faces. The major MPs had come to say, if push comes to shove, you will find me here.
But there are 137 NPP MPs.
Yes.
There were a lot of them who hadn't said anything openly. Yes. So some people were hoping that there would be a surprise, because it was a Napos, the Duchums, the senior, the minister guys who had come out.
But therein lay the problem. You see, because if you have a candidate of
Alan's stature
and Baumia's stature, choosing there's a
but the argument of the Alan
team, you don't sit on the fence.
The argument of the Alan team was that there are many people who support them, but they won't come out because the system supports Baumia. That's what they were saying. So if you listen to slide carefully, he was saying
but here's the
I'm coming. He's not. What the first one has taught us that the support among the MPs was actually for Baumia. A lot of them, because initially the impression was created that there were people who are Alan supporters, but they are quiet.
Yes.
And that they will shock the observers on election day by voting for him. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying that if you look at the turnout in Ashanti, even in the headquarters, and the kind of voting numbers we saw, it suggests that support in the top brass for Baumia was actually there.
Hold on.
GG, answer my point.
Hold on. So you have the public faces. Okay.
Mm-hmm. On both sides.
Both sides.
There were more for Baumia than Alan.
No, and I'm talking about even the weight
of
those persons.
Yeah, it wasn't the same.
Okay, and which was why I also made the point about who was behind him.
Mm.
You see, because we had Nano Hinento, former general secretary of the party.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, he hasn't been relevant in the NPP for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
YB.
Mm-hmm. Former director of communications, former MP.
Of the party.
Catherine Afeku, former minister.
Catherine Afeku. How popular was and strong was Catherine, even in her time.
Yeah.
In the party,
Richard Nyama.
Minister. Richard Nyama, who was with Chairman
John
Blake.
Peter Amewu.
Yes, JP Amewu would have been the powerful one.
I'm even surprised.
But he was the quiet one.
I'm even surprised at the vote in the Volta region, because the impression we
had
split
was
4-4. Volta.
Yes.
No, but Baumia still took it.
Alan got 4 votes.
Yes, what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you look at the supposed influence of Amewu in the Volta region as the only NPP MP in the region, who usually, when I go to events in the region where the president cannot attend, he attends.
He attends on his behalf.
Who has very good relationships with even NDC MPs in the region, who worked for NPP in 2016 for them to do well in the region, to be a key member of Alan's campaign and for him to pull 4 votes in the Volta region. It just tells you what it needs to tell you. You know, so I think that's the point.
The thing is propaganda and everything. It's political contest. When we were going there, people say, "Oh, Kennedy will sweep Central Region." I said he will not win Central Region. We had arguments here back and forth. The thing is that there are realities on the ground. Like you said, it's not everybody who's talking, but everybody is working.
97.3 FM, 9 o'clock City Breakfast Show. So much to talk about. Look, the NPP race is just round 1. There's a lot more we can talk about. So we don't even want to...
The balloting is today.
Yeah, so the question is, now that he's withdrawn, his name will probably not be in it again. Nathan, read a few comments for me. Just for 2 seconds.
All right, this one says, yeah, I think it's a strategy. Maybe if Bawumia wins, you make him a running mate. No. Larry in Assessor.
No, well, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to
happen. Larry says, Alan's major regret will be that he did not accept the Bawumia Alan ticket for 2024.
Was that actually offered properly or it was discussed? Who knows?
People suggested it across board. People who had seen the reality coming thought that it would be a better compromise. But that's not also to say that Bawumia would have accepted it.
So it wasn't like a firm proposal. It was something that was just being said. Okay. So then that's
okay. This one says they told Alan to be running mate for Bawumia. He disagreed and backed out of the race. As to if he will agree and take that job, I can't tell. This one didn't have a name. George in Adenta says, I'm thinking of a scenario where Alan might have something up his sleeves to partner somebody in the Flagbearership race, possibly Ken. Okay, this one says I disagree with Simmons. Says Alan didn't have any choice than to join Anado's government. The party would have seen him as somebody who didn't want to help and wanted to chart his own path because of selfish interest if he had rejected the offer. And he says the executive never gave him the chance to operate at the trade ministry. Carlos was the main man, and this was done deliberately to weaken Alan.
No, but Carlos was actually Alan. No, but wait, isn't Carlos Alan? Was Alan's
major?
So Carlos is Alan's team.
Carlos Ahinkra is a major Alan person.
He's an Alan guy. So actually in the campaign, you remember the Chronicle story? So he was in Alan's team.
So Bernard,
some of your notes can be corrected. But I think he has a point though. If Alan had not accepted the appointment, some could have spun that to mean that he was. So it's
but
there are both ways. Whatever you do, you will get people.
That in politics is not always what we see out there. What I'm saying is that Alan could have, if he didn't want it, could have negotiated his way out of it even before Nanado would come out. It's not like wait for Nanado to mention your name and then go and say that you
think
do
the second one, if you could have accepted the first one, because 2016, 2017 is a new government. But having done 4 years, he oughtn't have accepted in 2021 and then resign again.
The Alan team did the man such a great disservice. They were always on the attack instead of selling the man. For me, that was a red flag.
Okay.
From the beginning.
This one says, I remember the days of the real Alan Cash in 2007 when the delegates would run from a meeting with another candidate because they heard Alan Cash was in town, and the famous helicopter issue up north. When the government machinery was marshaled in favor of the Cashman, it says, times and tables have changed. Delegates have still not forgotten or forgiven his resignation from the party. I'm sure his campaign data analysis showed there was no way he was beating Kennedy. Interesting days. That one came from Henry. This one says, please, my advice to Alan is to go as an independent candidate. And I believe strongly he will win next year's elections because a lot of Ghanaians like him and will vote for him as president. It's good he's withdrawn from the race. He should disassociate himself from the NPP. George from Oyarifa said that.
Maybe George will offer himself as a campaign advisor to him.
The point the guy made about his resignation thing, I think that thing is still haunting.
It comes up.
When from 2008.
Colossus like BJ Darocha prevailed on him to rescind his decision. What did Alan say at that time? He said he was not going back.
Yeah.
A few more.
comments.
Daniel Ochi at the Ghanese Hospital says, well, Alan's pulling out is based on total disappointment in just in the elections. So everything he said for pulling out is just an excuse. All right. This one says, Alan doesn't learn from history. He did the same thing in 2008, and that has haunted him till now. His political career is over. Says politics is not for the faint-hearted.
Well, it says unless the decision,
Unless the decision is to lobby for a vice presidential slot. Okay. That QB appear from Kaswa sent.
Lots of interest.
Julius Intakari says Alan's political career is all but over. However, this withdrawal is his rebirth. Okay, if Bawumia doesn't win in 2024 and John Mohammed's term limit runs out, Alan will be the man to beat. Okay, that's his thing.
Angles.
This one says, I'm not surprised at all. The same acrimonious withdrawals resulted in a division in 1979, which gave Dr. Liman the win. Alan's decision can negatively affect the party if not handled properly. It can also lead to the formation of new parties within the NPP. Okay, that's Julius.
If I were a political science lecturer, I would ask my students to discuss this text message.
Reku Brobe went to form a UGM in 1998-99. Still, Kufuor won.
Yeah.
It depends on the weight and the constituency you control within the party.
Exactly.
Because William Oforiatta was a veritable noble person. So that's how come his departure caused that kind of split.
Yeah, so those are the two leading figures of the party at the time.
Okay.
More comments on this?
PK from Mamobi says, Dr. Bawumia and Nanado intentionally called Alan into their government to kill his ambition, like your friend said. Okay. It says, by the way, is Mr. Cash out of cash? Okay, so that's what he's saying. This one is from Kofi from Amasaman. He says, Alan's resignation is strategic. Even though he knows he will lose if he goes ahead to contest, his participation will legitimize Dr. Bawumia as the most likable candidate in the party. That's what Alan wants to avoid. The plan is to boot Dr. Bawumia out after the 2024 general elections because they know he's going to
A lot of people are calculating beyond 2024.
Okay, so it's quite a
I
lengthy
think a lot of
one.
people assume that Ghana's voters are static and that history will keep repeating itself. And so they keep thinking that somebody can wait till 2024. What they forget is that if somebody wins a party's ticket, like Mahama, prior to 2012, Mahama wasn't the leader of the NDC, but now he's the leader of the NDC. So those who are calculating and saying somebody will go into an election and lose, you think that if somebody goes into an election and assuming he even loses, that doesn't automatically give you the person who's out of the race the chance to upend him, right? Because the person would have built a machine, right? So Akufo-Addo went into 2008, he lost the election. 2012 he lost, but the machine was still on his behalf. So people should just be minded of those dynamics, all right? So we'll be back. There's more. I'm happy you guys are interested in this discussion.